All right, hey traders, TG Watkins here. Let's see, we got everything up and running. It is May 4th, so as I hear, May the 4th be with you. And let's see, we also have the FOMC today, so the market is pretty much just going to be hanging out until that news comes out. We even saw that yesterday, to where we got a little bit of a bump up, and then it just kind of went sideways for the rest of the day. As I said, fairly expected, considering there's a lot that's riding on the news today. We are expecting a 50 basis point raise. That shouldn't be a surprise. And then I think some of what's being asked for later is there going to be a 75 basis point raise later? And we'll see where that is. We'll see what the market's expecting versus what Powell says. And then I think a lot of it is about either how hawkish versus dovish and the balance sheet and all that kind of stuff that they're going to be working on. So I'm sure when the news comes out, we're going to be seeing the markets go all over the place initially, and we're going to then have to figure out which way is the correct direction. So a lot of times you get that first move, which is kind of a fake out move, and then you get that other move, which tends to be the real move. And then honestly, it's not until the next day, tomorrow, that we kind of see the main direction. So as I said, just kind of anything goes when it comes to the FOMC and all of that, because it's a wild situation because it's just so many people are looking at it. So, but if I were to just kind of say, looking at the S&P, looking at how oversold things are, how bearish everybody is, and that there has been a lot of destruction out there, I'd really, really like there to be a bounce. It would be great because that would really reset things. I feel like it's really tough to get short right here if that kind of happened for the Fed and if it really went down. So I know it's possible. We're kind of on our toes about that, but if I just kind of looked at things, I'd say I feel as though we're more likely to bounce before we roll over than to really roll over from here. So hopefully it's one of those sell the rumors, buy the news situations, and in this case specifically, it'd be sell the rumor because we've been going down and buy the news, and then hopefully we move up from there. If we do get a move up, I was kind of thinking either it's going to be a huge move to the upside because everybody's on one side of the trade, and that maybe that would be a surprise, and we get a giant short covering rally and a short squeeze. So could be huge. Or, maybe it'll kind of go for a little bit, but then peter out because, maybe there's a group of people that do need to get out of their shorts because of options and whatever else like that. And maybe they were loading up kind of late into the situation. Because if we look here at the daily chart, that we've undercut. You can see we actually did an undercut of the previous low. And so there might be a group of traders that when they saw it break new lows, like, oh, this is totally it. We're about to break down. We're about to implode. Let's go short. So there's that contention. And so they're in a poor situation that if the market goes up, they're going to have to get out. And so that would add to the short covering. Another thing might be that maybe when people hear that the interest rates are raised and they're going to be tightening and all this other kind of stuff, that's bad news, right? Oh no, it's bad news. And so they're going to want to short, but really the market already priced that in. And so it's actually going to go up because they're like, yeah, we got what we were expecting and, that's normal. So fine, we're going to, we're going to undo our position, which means it's going to go up. And so those kind of people who thought that maybe the bad news was what they're going to short into, but it's already been priced in. So maybe there's the idea. And then really just kind of talking from the structural situation, I mean, we are really oversold. I've talked to the Moxie subscribers and put a couple posts out there, and I said, it has happened before. There is precedent for the price to really keep falling from here, especially along that third ATR. Like it's happened. It's fairly rare, but it's happened. So we just kind of keep that in mind. But if I were to just say normally, that price being down along the third ATR for however many days it is, which is several, that's kind of an extreme area. And I would at least expect some sort of bounce or reversion to the mean or some sort of relief rally of some sort. And then, either, yeah, it's going to be huge or it could be kind of a dud. Maybe we actually just kind of get priced to move up like this and then it kind of peters out for a little bit and then maybe we roll over again, something like that. So those are kind of my thoughts. If I were to, You look at, say, the lower time frames, yesterday's move up here into the hourly 50. Well, that made sense. You can see before it ran right into the hourly 50. So that was pretty much expected. I didn't think yesterday was really going to go anyplace. I figured it was going to continue the bounce from Monday, which it did. But after that, it's really going to just be a sideways day setting up for today's day, today FOMC situation. So that's what I kind of thought is we're going to just get more or less a balancing day and a half as we wait for the FOMC. That's what's happening. So now we have price looking like it's coming into the 15-minute 50 and uptrending 15-minute 50. So far, it looks like it's doing a better job holding it than the last time it came into the 15-minute 50. But that could change. We got the FOMC, so that could change. And we are doing better with the Moxie indicator here on the 15-minute time frame. So those of you who are maybe not super familiar with the Moxie indicator, or you do own it, but you're looking for lessons and education, well, here you go. I could tell that this first move right here, and I put this out to the subscribers, I said, look, I'm pretty sure we're going to get a pullback after this because this is not a strong setup. And the reason we could see that is right here. You could see that the Moxie indicator was spread from each other. See how there's a big gap between the two indicator lines? It means it's not very strong. And so what you can see is that yes, they were going in the same direction, but they didn't agree with each other. Like one's above zero, one's below. They're really far away from each other. That's not strong. What you want to see is something like this. This is much better. See, it's basically one line. They almost look like it's the same situation, and that means they agree with each other. They're one line. They're stronger. That's better direction. That's better sentiment for what this is. Then we add in the fact that we had price go lower, but notice that the Moxie indicator actually went higher. So we have a couple things in here. These are the things that I look for on the 15-minute time frame to help set up whatever direction or strength that I'm kind of thinking of. So again, the news can blow all of this apart because news is news and it'll override the charts. But if we would just be looking at the charts, this does look like the beginning of an oversold move to the upside. And the 15-minute is starting to communicate that to me this way. We also have the Moxie indicator above zero, and price is trying to hold the 15-minute 50. So if we can get that, then good. Another thing we could possibly be looking at, not the greatest one, but this is a inverse head and shoulders right there. Or if you guys like my elf shoe pattern, this is the leg, this is the heel, this is the arch of the foot. We're putting in the ball of the foot, and then maybe we can get the elf toe like that. So that is why from yesterday, I said, we're going to run into this moving average. We're probably going to soften up a little bit. And we really just need to turn the 15-minute 50 into an uptrend so that price can basically go sideways into it and then hopefully bounce off of it to the upside. So those are my thoughts in through here. Jordan, that's going to be something you need to do. I'm not an options person, so I could not tell you how well a butterfly or trading options either way. I honestly couldn't even begin telling you where that's going to go. Yeah, then Sonny, I know 1 year of gains totally removed. And speaking of the NASDAQ, we come over here, and I think I want to show you this on the weekly, or maybe this will do. Yeah, if we look at the weekly, you can see we are kind of in this area, and I'd be looking at that as a congestion area, or at least a flag area. And we'll have to see if that ends up being, temporary support before we do break it to the next level. So that's kind of why we've been, I think, bouncing in this area, is just because there is area, there's congestion. There's a lot of price activity in through there. Obviously, the markets are just still having a hard time getting up off the floor today, and all of that is going to get changed with the FOMC, either for the better or for the worst. And we're along for the ride. Honestly, we're just along for the ride to see where that's going to go. If I looked at the UVXY to help me kind of figure this out too, some of the thing I'm looking at is, for now, I don't see an up move. We do have price down here, and price is still trending down on the 15-minute time frame. Now, of course, that can change quickly, because you can see this here the other day looked very similar to where we are now, and it can reverse very quickly. So as I said, I am keeping my eyes peeled for what's going to be happening today. I would love to see the UVXY continue down a little bit further before setting up again. But it's getting close, and it can go either direction. So we're gonna see what happens. We've got some positions set. We've got some longs. We've got some shorts. All good. And so we're just staying light until we really figure out what's going to be happening with this one. Let's see, latte, DBN. As far as oil stocks, I'm just never very good at oil stocks. They're not quite my thing. Part of the reason that I just don't trade them is because there is so much political, geopolitical news and news in general that surrounds them. So they've always been a tough sector for me. Something like DVN, it's a little bit hard to ride out those moves for me. Now, yes, it's been in a trend. So if that kind of works for you, for where you don't mind having kind of big drops like that, then hey, more power to you. It has been following the daily 50 pretty well. Now, my only concern is I was kind of seeing this on the daily chart. That doesn't look good compared to price going up, and the Moxie indicator is below 0. So, I just, as I said, I don't really have too much to say. Yes, it's up, and I think even USO, yeah, USO is kind of up a bit. It looks okay. It looks like it wants to keep going higher. So, I was talking about this the other day to the rest of like the options room here at Simpler. It said, look, USO does look good, but let's figure out timing. Like, when is it going to actually get going and go higher? And my contention was, if we looked at individual names, I was like, I don't know. I don't really see these ready to go yet. Like Halliburton, at the time, because it was at the beginning of the week, they were still down. They were still running into the underside of a downtrending hourly 50, and the Moxie indicator was below 0. Now it's looking a little bit better, but I don't know. I just don't really have a good grasp on what's happening with these names. They've been moving up for so long, and then they finally take a huge down like this. Now, is that down going to get repaired and keep going up? I don't know. It's a little bit tough position for me. And then like ConocoPhillips, they took a big dip. Now that we have earnings, and I don't know if I don't really like to trade right in front of earnings, and this is a tough chart to trade because the 50 is below the 200 on the hourly chart, and honestly, we're running right into the 200. So I tend to see a pullback before it goes higher. So I'm looking at these things, and even the oil stocks are just kind of in funny positions. CVX, they had a pretty big move down. Now, are they going to recover, or is this the beginning of them kind of working their way down? I don't know. But I don't really want to be going in on this at the underside of the hourly 200. I'd love to see it maybe pull back, hold, and then go, and then I'd be willing to get it on the next move up. So yeah, just kind of tough. Not really the greatest situation for me for oil because I'm not in it. So I'm just trying to figure out what's going on. Now UNG, which is natural gas, I heard that there was some deal that kind of got pushed through, which is why this is spiking. Now we still have a little piece left of this, so we're making money on it. I wish I had more, but I wasn't super confident that it was going to hold at the 21. I kind of thought it was going to do what USO was going to do and go sideways like that. But apparently there's so much energy in UNG. It's like, yeah, no, we're just going to keep going. So we've got a small percent of this, and as I said, we'll kind of see where it goes. It's a little sketchy to try and initiating a position here. So we still have what we have. Jordan, so it's not about the rate hike. Everybody's pretty much expecting the rate hike today for the FOMC. It's really about what they're going to say. What are they guiding? What are they saying? How are they directing the market? How much are they going to pull out? How quickly are they going to do it? Are they going to be sensitive to if the market really does roll over? It's going to be more about their future guidance and how to expect things. That's really because the market is a forward-looking instrument, and so that's what they're going to do. Is they're trying to figure out, well, where are we going from here? And let's see if we can. Yeah, so UNG Moxie fired long at the hourly third. Yeah, ATR. What do you make of it? Huge momentum on weekly, daily charts. Yes, so there is huge momentum on the weekly and daily charts. Typically, what I see is when the Moxie indicator fires so late from price crossing the 50, it's like the tail wagging the dog. It's a little late. It's out of phase. I also wouldn't really want to be initiating a trade up here after we've had 2 really big days, and now we're hitting the third ATR. So, there's a lot of energy. This could keep going for a little bit, but I wouldn't want to enter there. If you're in it, I would say just keep riding it, and I'm going to see if there's another possible entry at some point to get long on this. But yeah, it's a little it's a little bit nervous to be up there because the higher you go, the more likely you're going to get a pullback. So the higher you go, the more likely you're going to get a pullback, typically. So if you're in, great. If you're not, I personally would wait. There's usually another train that comes at some point. And let's see, SSRM. Now, Julio, if I look at the golds, and there are gold miners rather, that there are certain names that are looking better than others. But as a whole, if we say look at GDX as the gold miners, you know, I believe that gold and gold miners are going to be positive eventually. And I think that this was just a big pullback, but I think they're going to go higher because if we look at the monthly and weekly timeframes, they are pretty much pulling back into support. And if we look at some individual names about the gold miners, some of them look great. They're up high, they're doing well. Yes, they've pulled back or flagged, but they're making new highs generally. They look good. Other gold stocks, kind of not looking so hot. So I would like to think that they're going to go higher, but I'm not sure quite when. So if you look at SSRM, yes, it looks great, but you have to look at the rest of the pack to kind of figure out timing. Because remember, they travel in packs and they bring their friends. So one of them's not really just going to go off on their own and start, ripping and roaring. The whole pack is going to move pretty much at the same time. So while, as I said, I do like SSRM, it looks one of the better ones. I'd really be looking at GDX and gold itself and the rest of the pack to say, okay, when do we think that they're going to start moving? I would like to think that this is about, the bottom of this pullback, maybe a inverted head and shoulders right there. And it looks like it may be trying to get over the hourly 50. So it kind of get up over here, turn into some support and then keep going higher. But I don't quite see enough that I'm really willing to add more. So I'm looking for it. Maybe this is the low, but it hasn't confirmed enough for me. So I'm going to be waiting a little bit longer on those kind of names. Yeah, Jordan, I like GDX and more specifically Nugget because since I trade just stock, I need leverage. And so Nugget trades more than say GLD or UGL, which is the leverage of gold. But I definitely look at GLD in order to help me understand what GDX is going to do and basically the whole pack. And what I've been saying here, let me get this, on the weekly and monthly timeframes, this pullback so far seems fairly normal. You can see the last time that we had a pulled back into the monthly 10. You can see this time it's pulling back into the monthly 10. And the last time it pulled back into the weekly 50. And this time it's pulling back into the weekly 50. So if it can eventually hold those areas and then turn around and keep moving up, we should see that set up on the lower timeframes, and then I'll be willing to add more and continue watching this thing go up. Now, just remember, everything that we look at today kind of is at the mercy of whatever the FOMC does. So while I would like to think that the market's going to go up, we don't have that confirmed yet. There's a big news item that's coming out today with the FOMC. So if we look at some typical stuff or some names, just know that they could look great, but if the market goes down, they're probably going to go down too. All right, I don't know this one specifically. Commodity index. I don't know what the BEN is, but okay, commodity. I mean, it looks fairly good. It was overbought back here. You can see that price got way outside of that third ATR, and same thing here on the daily chart. It's at least come in. It's at least come into the 8 EMA and come into the daily 50. So that all looks good. And actually, this kind of looks just like oil. So maybe this is a commodity ETF of oil. And at this point, it's really close. If I were to be precise, and if this thing's going to go higher, I'd like to say it's going to go higher right here because it's holding or sitting on or trying to test the hourly 50. And if it can continue holding that, then it should be a clean move to the upside. Now, again, I'm not too familiar with this one. It looks kind of like oil, and it's been a little bit choppy, but it has more or less been doing one of these things, and it does seem to be like it's coming down to the point to where it's going to break one way or the other. It seems to me like it's going to break to the upside, but if it doesn't, then you need to take that as your information too. But there's that pennant getting wedged, and it seems like it should continue to go to the upside. Yeah, and then let me know which direction you guys are going, long or short, because this market is going both directions. So Apple, again, with my idea that we should be getting a bounce with the market. So if we can get a bounce on the market, then yes, we should get a bounce with Apple. Apple should move up, but it's looking a little rough. There is some support. We have price down, and then we have the Moxie indicator starting to turn up a little bit. It's not something I'd really say, yes, there's going to be a new swing trade to the upside. But if you're looking for Apple to go up a little bit, then I think that is reasonable. You can see even on the daily chart that it was out here at the third ATR. And I figure we should at least get, I don't know, if this works, we should get a move back up to the daily 21, maybe the daily 50, depending on how big this short squeeze is, if we actually get a short squeeze. And then the other thing is we do have price sitting right there on the weekly 50. Now, I think that's going to be temporary support. I think that we could get a move up, but the next move after this bounce, I'd be looking for Apple to probably fall below the weekly 50. So keep that in mind, that if you're looking to go long, it might not be the duration of it may not be very long. It could be a short-term trade. AMD had earnings. I don't trade earnings. And it looks like it was up on earnings, but it was overbought. So you can see here, got outside of that third ATR. It was just gapped up like this. And this is such a weak market that if you get presented with a gift like that, you should just take it, because you can see what happened. It just came right back down to pretty much where it was yesterday. So in this market, if you get a gap up, you should just take it. Also on the daily chart, you can see it's not quite ready to go higher. I was talking about this yesterday to our options traders and the Moxie group, and I said, look, first of all, I don't trade earnings. At least not. I don't go into earnings specifically to be trading them. But I did say I think that the market's going to be bouncing. Therefore, I think AMD, hopefully it goes up, but it looks like it's on an up trajectory for right now. And Nvidia, same thing, looks oversold, so it should bounce. Same thing with the semiconductor index. It's oversold, so it looks like it should bounce. So I was looking generally long on this direction, but I don't know how long that's going to live. This is still bearish. This doesn't look super strong. Yes, there can be some more upside, but I would be careful on the upside that at some point that upside is going to give it up. We're going to roll over and go back down again. So I think that this is mostly just a bounce and a downtrend. You can trade it, but just keep that in mind. Let's see. PayPal, you're going to be wanting to short it. Look, these things can always keep going lower. It's had a really big down move. So you just have to make sure that there's enough meat on the bone left in order to short it. Because at some point, how about this? As an example, just so you can see. Express. Like, what is Express doing? Are people really going to be out shopping right now? Inflation, the economy is shrinking. Is Express really something that's going to go in higher right now? Probably not. In fact, we shorted it and made a 2% off of it. But I think what's happening is some of these stocks, they've gotten as low as they're going to go. The big firms, the big funds that are in these have somehow come to an agreement and said, this is about it. This is the value that we think it's worth based on the numbers and whatever. And we're just not willing to sell it or push it down any lower. And at some point, you're probably going to get that with PayPal, because it's probably at some point been reduced to a price that is now more in line with its perceived value. And that would be, that's what I'm trying to say, is be careful about trying to short this, because it might have reached that point. It could keep going lower, but it seems as though it's had such a big move to the downside that I kind of don't know how much further it could go. And I'd rather short other things that I think have more potential to the downside than something that is all the way back down here, coming into support and at the lower third ATR on the monthly time frame. This thing seems really oversold, and I don't know how much more is left to the downside. So you could be right, but I think that there are richer things to go after. And so, Joanna, let's see, GNRC. Okay, well, you're after earnings, so that's good. And yes, eventually, I think that this would be something that gives you that potential. So it is good that it is up here. It's getting altitude in order to then roll over. Because remember, you can't go down low if you're too low to the ground. You actually need to get air in order to come down. So it is good that it's at least moving up if you're interested in shorting. Now you'll have to find out when you want to short it. Like, when does this thing stop going up? But generally speaking, here's the leg, here's the heel, here's the arch of the foot, and we know what happens at the arch of the foot. Usually wants to come back down to the ball of the foot at least. So yes, it seems like it's at least giving you room to short it, but you need to figure out when is the right time to short it. And if I'm correct that the market might bounce, this thing might go a little bit higher before rolling over. So I don't have a direct answer about that as far as a yes, no right now. It's more like, okay, you're getting altitude, you're making space for a short, but you'll have to get that timing right. XLV, I don't see anything to do. I don't see anything to do with XLV. It's just been chopping. It looks to me like it wants to fall off that weekly 50 SMA. I don't know what to do with this thing. I think it's oversold. I think that there's probably going to be a bounce, but there's just nothing to do here. I don't see anything. Let's see. FRGE. Yeah, I don't want to touch. Sorry, I don't want to touch this stock either. It goes from like 0 volume to a lot of volume, and then it's been sporadic. So if you want to trade this, be my guest. That's a tough one. So not exactly what I want to trade at this point, but what I could say is that there's a 50, 200, 50 maneuver, and then you had the Moxie indicator fire at the right time. So that worked out nicely, and then there was a trampoline move down there. So if you guys were looking for scans, Rick, I hear you. I'll get a update for those scans out there. But this would be scannable, a daily trampoline move, because price is below the 50 and the Moxie indicator is above 0. This would at least be scannable, and you would have found this, assuming your other filters allow it to come in there. All right, Roku for a bounce. Probably not. I don't know. I don't really want to be playing in this area. So yes, there could be a bounce. You'd need market support to do that, but it could also just bump around. Let me bring you Snap. This is my concern. Because if you're looking at Roku for a bounce, yes, you can get a bounce. You can get a bounce, but you're going to have to be right about it. And you're going to have to be quick about it too. Because Roku is a dead stock. And so a bounce could get sold into, and a bounce could get sold into. So if you're going to trade a bounce for Roku, it seems as though you're kind of working against the primary direction that it wants to go. Basically, it's dead. So sure, if you can find a bounce, okay. But just keep in mind that the whole thing is not really happy to the long side. Let's see, INDO. Nick, good to see you. You got to keep in mind, Nick, what is the primary environment of this market right now? It's bad. It's negative. It's weak. Yes, maybe there's a bounce in the market, but overall, I think the market's going to go much lower. And I know the other guy was, oh, Nick, that was for you, Forge, FRGE. So yeah, there was a move for Forge. You could say that maybe there's going to be a move setting up here. You got to be careful with it. I think that FRGE thing was kind of lucky. I'm very, very cautious on the long side for the market right now. So I don't know. At least it's past earnings, and if this thing can start catching support on the hourly 50, great. But like right this moment, I don't see anything. It's gonna have to do something to really say okay. Yeah, it's tough, man. I actually the last couple weeks I have not been doing too much. I've been cashing in on the ones we've been in, and then at this point I'm waiting for a bounce to then reshort the market. So just kind of hanging out. And then Costco long. Maybe there's a bounce only because it's oversold, but this thing looks like it's having a hard time. If you're looking for a swing, it kind of looks like it's wanting to flag more sideways into the weekly 50. I think it's just kind of taking a break. And yes, there could be a long, but kind of like before, make sure that long, you realize it might come back down like this, because this could just be a bounce and a downtrend. So yes, oversold. Yeah, I'm seeing some stretchiness on the hourly chart, and yes, it could bounce, but I don't see a swing long trade. It's just not there yet. You are still technically in a downtrend on these time frames. So maybe a bounce, but I don't see a swing long yet. And even at that, I don't see an entry at this point. Okay, so all right, guys. Well, I'm gonna get going. That's my time. If anybody has any questions about who I am, and I know in the free trading we've got a lot of new people kind of circling around out there, but you can come over, find me. My name's TG Watkins, and yeah, come over and see if there's anything I can do and help you out in this market. So, well, catch you later. Thanks, guys.